This podcast is brought to you by Undercurrent Athletics and Hard Knocks Gym, both located at the corner of 52nd Street and Broadway. We are also brought to you by Maceo Spice and Import Company, located at 2706 Market Street. For sponsorship and advertising information, please contact galvestonislandpodcast@gmail.com.
And we're back. We just had some technical difficulties. We just shot probably about 10 minutes of footage before. But today is July 19th. It is the anniversary of Shark Week. I'm not sure when. I'm probably going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
This is my buddy John Michael. He's a great shark fisherman from Houston. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll do your famous Galveston Island podcast fishing report.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for having me, first of all, Alex.
No problem.
Like Alex said, my name is John Michael, and from Houston. I've been fishing Galveston now for my whole life, I guess. Grew up down here as a kid. My family used to have a house in Pirates Beach, just down the road, and grew up fishing the beach more than anything. Catching trout, catching redfish as a kid, and now I've kind of taken it up a notch, and I've started. I've been doing it for years now, but I've been shark fishing for years. It's kind of always been my thing to just catch the biggest, baddest fish out there, and just
We caught a bunch of fish today.
Yeah, we did. We should talk about that. We caught. We went trout fishing today.
Caught up 30 trout.
We caught 30 trout.
And a gaff top.
You always gotta have a gaff top in there, right?
Caught some sharks too.
We caught some sharks.
Some 2-3 footers.
We caught some little sharks. Not really, not really what we wanted today,
yeah.
Right? We weren't shark fishing, but yeah, we did. We caught a 3-man limit of trout. And it was one of those days you kind of dream about. It was quick.
2 days ago, I had about 5 fish on my stringer.
Yeah.
And a school full of black tips just came and just destroyed my stringer. I have evidence to prove it. It was not fun. It was really scary.
Yeah.
It kind of freaked me out. But I was out at the second sandbar, and I was trying to swim back, and
yep. They were in that deep water.
They were coming after it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's kind of cool, right? I mean, it's kind of creepy too.
Knowing that,
yeah, they're everywhere.
10 sharks they're
everywhere.
Just kind of circling you, saying, "Hey, what's that guy doing over there?"
Yeah, this time of year, it's really when it's this hot. July and August, there's a ton of just little, what I call pesky black tips.
When's big shark season?
So it depends on where you are in Texas, right? So for us here in Galveston, I would say June is my favorite month. I would say that's when I'm most consistent. That's when I catch a lot of bull sharks and a lot of fish over 6 feet. But a lot of people, when you ask them that question, a lot of shark fishermen, they're going to say, well, the end of March, or all of March really, and going into April, because that's when we get a run of what are called sandbar sharks, and when they are here, there's usually a lot of them, and you can catch them all day, and most of them are going to be over 6 feet, and a good number of them are going to be over 7 feet.
So each shark kind of has its own indicative season that they come into.
Right. Every year, or every month has something different. So there's always fishing opportunities, and I mean you can fish year round, and you're gonna target a certain species based on what month that is.
Well, and before we get ahead of ourselves, let's do you do the fishing.
Do a little
report,
fishing
please.
report, okay?
Do the fishing report.
All right, so well, today obviously a very good day in the surf. Very light winds out of the southeast. Water clarity has been awesome. It's been flat now for over a week, and people have been catching a lot of trout in the surf on top waters, mirror lures, and live bait, of course. You can expect really high numbers of trout on live bait, and you can definitely expect some solid numbers on artificials. Going into the weekend, the wind is going to pick up a little bit. It's going to be, it's not really going to be fishable for wade fishermen. At least Saturday, probably, maybe Friday. Friday might be pretty good. Sunday and Saturday probably not.
We're dealing with a bunch of scattered storms too.
Yeah, scattered storms. But for the most part, fishing's been really good lately. I recommend you come down when you can, because it's not going to be like this for probably for a little while. I can't tell you exactly what next week's going to be like, but it's not going to be exactly what it is now.
Well, I mean, we were doing really well, but it seemed like midday it started to turn off.
Yeah. That has a lot to do with the tides. We showed up on a outgoing tide. It was a high tide going out, and it was just kind of that transition. And as that tide gets lower, as the water level drops, those fish kind of move out to the second sandbar, and naturally the bite kind of cuts off midday. After the morning. Yeah.
Should this evening be good?
This evening should be really good. We still have the winds are still really light, and if you go put your time in and fish, you're probably not gonna get that much action until after 6:30. So just be patient though, because there's a lot of fish out there.
So you started when you were young. When did you start shark fishing?
I started shark fishing. I guess I started really shark fishing hard when I could drive, because that's when I could really get down here more. And so I guess I was 16 when I started really accumulating some good shark fishing gear and started to get really serious. I used to come down with all my friends. We'd make it. It was always a good time just to get all my friends out and hang out on the beach. Shark fishing's a lot about hanging out on the beach and just waiting. So there's never a dull moment.
So now you do land-based,
right?
Other than some guides may take their people out to do boat-based. What's the biggest difference of the kind of shark that you're looking for, and what's the main difference between land-based and fishing off of a boat?
So land-based, you're pretty limited, right? You can't get that bait in the deepest water, but you can consistently, if you take a bait out 250 yards to 500 yards, you're in some decent deep water, and you're close to sandbars, and those sandbars naturally attract bait, which naturally bring in the sharks. And so you can consistently catch 6 foot sharks off the beach. You can really consistently catch 5 foot, 4 foot sharks. I mean, there's a lot of sharks out there, but it's for a land-based shark fisherman, it's that fish that's over 6 feet is what you're really after. Now, in terms of just how big you can get you can catch how big a shark can get off the beach. I mean, you can catch a 12-foot tiger shark. You can catch a 13-foot hammerhead. It's not like it hasn't happened before. It happens a lot, especially farther south. Padre, Corpus.
You just came back from Poco Bueno, right?
I did, yeah. Well,
how was that? Did you get to see any fish weigh-ins?
We did. We watched the first fish come in. It was a marlin that was over 500 pounds, and we weren't actually fishing it, but we went down there just to hang out. A lot of people go down. It's a big deal. They call it Poco Fest, and it was cool to watch the boats bring in some fish.
A lot of nice boats.
Oh man, these just incredible sport fishers that are just they're $1 million boats. And
what was the payout for the for the winner of the boats, the offshore division?
Well, the offshore. So, the person to bring in the first marlin, just the first marlin.
The first marlin.
Well, no, just the person who brings in the first marlin, no matter how big it is, automatically wins $30,000. That's $30,000
for the first marlin of the day.
So what a lot of people do is they catch a marlin, they come in, hang it up, and then they turn around and they go right back offshore. And in terms of the biggest marlin, it's all about weight, and it all depends on the turnout.
What's the entry?
Oh man,
we were talking. I think our second podcast we were talking about tournaments and stuff.
Yeah,
the entry you used to go ahead.
Well, for the offshore of it, there's an inshore and there's an offshore. But for the offshore, it's. I mean, I want to say it's upwards of somewhere between $9,000 and $12,000 for the entry.
You used to fish the lighthouse, the beach.
Right.
Shark fishing from the beach. It's in Galveston. It's based in Galveston. What is that
well, it's called right now. It's called the Beach Masters Tournament.
Okay.
And the Lighthouse charity sponsors it, and it's for a good cause. And it gets.
You won it one year, right?
Yeah, we won it. We won it. It was back in high school, my junior year, and we won with it. We caught an 8'4" lemon shark. And that took first place, and that's a pretty big shark for up here, for the upper coast, so that was a cool experience. We did fish it this past year, and we took second in the redfish division, so that was pretty cool. It's always cool to place in a tournament. You feel kind of special.
What's the biggest shark you've caught? Is that 8'4" lemon?
Yeah, that 8'4" lemon has been the biggest so far.
If you had to estimate, how many sharks over 6 foot have you caught?
Oh man,
is it hundreds?
No, not hundreds. Not
less than hundreds.
Yeah, a lot. If I lived down here, it might be in the hundreds. But unfortunately, I just don't.
I have to pry you off the beach.
Yeah, you'd have to pry me off the beach for sure. But I've caught a good number of them, and a lot of them over 6, a lot of them in the 7 range. And a shark in the 7 foot range is a really good fish.
Well, those bull sharks, when we catch the bull sharks in 7 foot range, I like that.
Yeah.
Now that's in mid-June, right?
June, in my opinion, for Galveston, June is the month to be here if you want to consistently catch bull sharks over 6 feet. No doubt about it. Now you can catch bull sharks, May's also a good month, but in my opinion, I think everything kind of comes together in early June.
Right before shrimping season?
Yep. So, unfortunately, now we're in shrimping season. So I think it opened up last week or a week or two ago.
Yeah. So all the big sharks are kind of off.
Yeah, how it kind of works, and it's a known shark fishing thing is when shrimping season starts, shark fishing slows down dramatically. All those sharks kind of they follow those shrimp boats offshore, and they just ride those shrimp boats, and they just pick up all the what's called bycatch, which is everything that the shrimp nets bring in that aren't shrimp, and they just toss overboard, and it's like it's too easy for them not to go out there. They stuff themselves. So
now, so in regards to catching as many sharks as you do, because one night you caught 8 sharks in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Less than 6 hours.
Well, yeah, we had a really good run. We caught 7 sharks in 4 hours.
Wow.
Between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. And we missed a lot of fish too. I mean, we were getting double hookups.
For the people who don't know what we do, and listeners, if you don't know when you catch a shark, what do you do with it?
So I get that question a lot, and it's a good question. All we do is we take pictures and we let them go. And a lot of the sharks, what I did a lot last year, and I'm still waiting on more tags, but last year we tagged all of our sharks.
Is that you put the tag on it, you figure out male, female?
Yep. You
size.
take measurements. You take measurements, and yes, you write down if it's a male or a female, and then it's all it is a little
red or orange.
Well, they're clear, but it has a number on it. It's just a little punch tag that goes right there at the dorsal, and when that shark is recaptured, if it's recaptured, that angler who catches the shark can write that number down and take measurements of the fish. He can write that number down and put it into, if you're tagging for NOAA or if you're tagging for Hart. You can enter it in the system.
TWPD do anything?
What's that?
Texas Parks and Wildlife, do they do anything?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of. It's just big ones are NOAA and Hart. So, yeah, and that has done a lot for shark research, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. Is a lot of shark recaptures can happen on the same beach, or can happen. A shark can be caught in Texas and it's recaptured in Florida, and then they can tell you, because the angler who first tagged the shark entered in all the information in the system. Then when that shark is recaptured, they'll know exactly how many years it's been since that shark was first caught, and they can see how much it's grown.
How long does that tag stay in there usually?
Oh, it'll stay in there forever. It can only
stick it in pretty good.
Yeah, it just goes in right under the skin, and the shark skin is really tough. And just as the shark gets older,
it grows.
It kind of grows into the shark, and it's nothing. It's nothing before the shark.
It's just a little tag.
Yeah, it's nothing for them. So it's more beneficial for them. Absolutely.
So what's the biggest issue you see with inexperienced fishermen on the beach? I guess being here so long and coming down as much as you do, what do you see that could be improved upon?
Well, a lot of times people just come down here to fish not knowing any laws or regulation, and that's kind of getting out of hand, especially now that a lot more people are coming to fish in Galveston on the weekends. It's kind of getting around. I don't know what's going on, but I noticed all my spots are kind of getting overfished, and I would just say that people just kind of need to educate themselves a little more before they come out. They need to know what
size limits,
exactly, and
what
they can use for bait.
People catch a small redfish or trout.
I've seen it happen. I've seen them keep undersized redfish, or I one time saw a guy using a redfish for bait. He caught a 17-inch redfish and he just cut it up and threw it out there, and because he said he wanted to catch a shark, and it's like, well, you obviously don't know what you have out there for bait. So, and I hate to see that kind of thing. I really do.
Do you have some kind of, I guess, just kind of some laws or regulations that people should know about if they're listening?
Yeah,
if they have no clue what we're talking about.
So just your typical trout and redfish, those are pretty common on our coastline, and I guess they should know that they have to be 15 inches or longer, and
that's trout.
That's trout. Sorry, yeah, that's trout, and you can keep 10 a day, which is a lot. There's a lot of fish. I mean, you don't need more than 10 a day.
But then the South Texas limit past Matagorda, or did they bump that up?
No, it's still 5.
It's still 5.
It's still 5.
So south Matagorda south is 5.
Right, and there's a certain I don't know, I can't remember the exact boundary line, but yes, you just be familiar where you are and what your regulations are for where you're fishing, because that's,
a lot of people don't know that flounder in November you go 2.
Yeah,
flounder's 2 in November, and 5 year round besides November, because that's their spawning months.
Yep. And you can't gig then too. You can't gig flounder.
I didn't know you. I didn't. That's
you
new
can't
to me.
do it because
because they're everywhere. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No gigging. I know. I go to Texas A&M Galveston, and I'd see a lot of kids go to Seawolf Park and catch 5 flounder. I'm like, those 3 could have stayed. I don't keep anything. I don't keep trout under 17.
Right. Yeah.
I'd let the smaller ones grow big. I mean, bigger. I prefer bigger fish anyway.
Oh yeah.
Easier to fillet, more to eat.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely easier to fillet.
Yeah. What about redfish?
Redfish, so they got to be 20 inches first of all. Now you can only keep one. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's trout. It's 20 to 28 inches. That's your range there. You get a redfish in there between 20 and 28. You can keep it, and you can keep 2 more, so you can keep 3 total. Now, if you catch a redfish that's over 28 inches, you have to let them go unless you use your tag that comes with your fishing license. I think you get one a year, and you can tag a redfish that's over 28 inches.
How do you use your tag?
You fill it out. I think you write the location of where it was caught, and then you cut out the date. You have to cut it out. You cut out the date, and then you can just use some fishing line, and you just tie the tag onto the tail or whatever. But just I know a lot of people when they see a big old redfish that's over 30, 35 inches, and they're like, man, that's a big fish. I want to keep it. I want to take it home. I want to eat it. Well, I'm telling you, they're not that good to eat at all when they're that big. So just let them go. Yeah, just let them go. They're fun to catch, and just take a picture and let them go.
That's what you do with sharks too. You take pictures.
I just take pictures. I let them go. I do not keep any sharks.
Some people say I've had a 3-footer before.
Hey, yeah, no, and you know what? You keep one. You can keep one a day. You can keep one shark a day. Now, there's different regulations on what kind of shark you can keep. There's a lot of sharks you can't keep, so that's another thing. Be familiar with that. Now, if you are going to keep a shark, keep a black tip or something like that. Keep a black tip, or keep like a bonnet head shark. Don't keep a big bull shark. Don't do that, because first of all, that's a lot of meat. What are you going to do with a 6-foot bull shark?
It's going to stay in your freezer and
rot. And you really shouldn't freeze shark meat.
It's got urea in the blood.
Yeah, and I keep maybe one shark every other year, and that's just because I'm going to eat it that day. And the shark that I do keep is probably 30 inches long. They have to be 24 inches, so they got to be 2 feet to keep, at least for a black tip or a bonnet head. And I might keep one every other year, and I'll eat it that day. Shark steaks. It can be really tasty, It can be tasty, but they're not fun to clean. They smell terrible.
That's the worst smelling fish ever.
It's bad when you cut them open, and it's pretty nasty.
So we went over the differences of land-based and sea-based, right?
Well, I don't think I talked about the boats. You asked about how, what's the difference?
Yeah, what's the main
difference?
Of
you can get in a boat and you can run offshore, and you can throw some chum overboard, chopped up fish or whatever, and it's much easier offshore. It's much quicker. You can consistently catch 5-6 foot sharks all the time offshore. But you also have the opportunity to get a much bigger shark. You can run way out, blue water, and chum, and you could very easily catch a hammerhead that's over 10 feet long, or a big tiger shark that's over 11 feet long. It's not rare, that's for sure. Catching big sharks offshore is not rare.
Now, the times in Texas where shark fishing is good, can you kind of go through the regions and where people should go, and then let's go through that.
Okay. Well, first of all, the best shark fishing in Texas, hands down, is known to be in Corpus Christi, or Padre Island National Seashore, which is just outside of Corpus, and that's the continental shelf drops off a lot quicker down there. You get a lot deeper water a lot quicker, and there's been several sharks caught every single year over 10 feet long, and we just don't get that kind of
big
consistency here in Galveston. We get a lot of sharks over 6 feet, but we
don't get the consistent big guys,
right? And that's, if you want those consistent big guys, you got to go south.
So what are those big ones eating? Are they chasing pelagic fish? Is that why they're more blue water eaters, so to speak?
Yeah, they pelagic fish for sure. You're gonna see a lot of sharks eating stuff like bonita or jackfish. Jackfish is a all around, for the most part, probably the best shark bait out there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you get your hands on a fresh jackfish, there's a good chance it's not going to sit out in the water for too long. It's a bloody bait, and they love them. So
now let's talk about your rig. I know you're really
Okay.
really proud of your shark fishing rig.
Yeah.
So what's the story, and tell us what your setup is.
Well, it's always been my dream to own, like as a kid growing up, own a shark rack is what they're essentially called, and I've had one for years now, and it basically goes in the back of your truck, and it's a platform, and it's got rod holders, and what that does is it gets your rods and your line way up high. And for fishing over here in Texas, that's a big deal because we have these real, these sandbars have shell. They have stuff that cuts your line. A lot of abrasion, and with a big high rack like I have, that'll get your lines as high up, just nice and high to where a lot of the line is clearing those sandbars. So that's one reason why racks are everywhere now for shark fishermen. And then a big reason is seaweed. When we have bad years in Texas for seaweed, it's every shark fisherman's nightmare. And without a rack, a lot of times you just can't fish, even if there's just a little bit of seaweed. Without a rack, you just can't fish. Now, with a rack, a lot of times you can clear most of the seaweed that's running in close, because it gets bad when it runs close. When it's out there, it's tough, but a lot of times you can deal with it if it's pretty minimal. But that rack comes in handy, in terms of seaweed. So seaweed and line abrasion, those are the two big ones, I would say.
You've been messing around with a lot of LED bars too.
Yeah, well, I like lights. I like to light. I like to see. Okay, because I fish at night. I put LED light bars all over the rack, so that when we do hook up on a big fish, we fight those fish from the rack. And you can just flip on the light bars when they get in close, and it helps in terms of leadering fish.
How many rods and reels do you have total?
Oh man, shark fishing reels.
Mm-hmm.
I really only I have like 5 or 6, and I really only use 3 of them. I have a lot of other rods that I use for redfish, for catching big bull redfish off the beach and stuff like that. But the most effective way I shark fish is just with 3 rods, which is a good number. And now if it's flat enough and if there's no seaweed, I can typically run more. But usually I only have one other guy with me, so I stick with 3.
I'm going to give you a fun one to answer.
Right.
So let's say there's a young kid, right? And he sees this podcast, or he sees you out there on the beach. What's your advice to him? How do you start? How do you get out there and how do you take care of business, so to speak?
How do you start shark fishing?
How do you start shark fishing?
Oh man. Well, it all starts with buying your first shark fishing rod and reel, I guess. It doesn't have to be anything too expensive. I started out with Penn Senators, and that's typically what everybody starts out with, and that's a lot of times what everybody still uses today throughout their whole lives. They're very tough, sturdy reel. They're going to last you a lifetime. And then I guess my other advice is talk to other shark fishermen. Get some information that'll kind of help you out, because if you're going in there blind, you're going to get frustrated, and you're not going to catch a fish. It took me a long time to catch a fish. It took me a long time to catch a shark. It took me probably over a year to really, to legitimately catch a shark. You catch a shark that's like 5 feet. That's what I consider a legit fish for anybody starting out. But I guess my advice is good stuff is not cheap and cheap stuff is not good. That's a big one. So don't go too cheap. And fresh bait. Nothing beats fresh bait. I'd never use anything frozen. If
you always catch your bait in the mornings.
I catch my bait. I'd spend the 2 days usually catching bait, stockpiling, and then so I'm ready to go shark fishing the next day or that afternoon.
How long does it take usually? I mean, you could put your rod out there 30 minutes, or you could be out there 12 hours.
Oh, it varies. Oh, it's sometimes you can't even get back to the beach and your reel's going off, but other times, I've sat with a bait in the water for 10, 12 hours before it got hit. It varies. I mean, if there's a lot of fish around, it usually doesn't take too long, but if there's not too many fish around and just the conditions aren't ideal, then it can take a long time, or it just won't happen at all.
But when you're catching those seven fish in 4 hours, you said you were going through rough seas.
It was,
So it's really just being persistent.
You got to be persistent, and honestly, another big thing for shark fishermen that we all know is that when that water's too flat, they're much farther out. The sharks are much farther out, and usually my worst days have been when that water's glass. I like it personally when I have about 2 foot waves and it's not too clear, at least for Galveston. I mean, it's not too clear, kind of a sandy green.
It's not the brown water.
Not brown water. And I've caught a lot of fish in brown water, but if I get that sandy, off-colored green water and I have 2 foot swells, I'm feeling really good, But I've caught fish when it's flat, but just not as many. It drives them offshore. They're a lot farther offshore when it's that flat. Now when it's rough,
have you figured out why yet?
Too
clear. Don't want to hang out.
If it's too clear,
they just don't want to hang. It's just
I don't know.
Fish can see them from a mile away.
It's weird how it works. For Galveston, if it's too clear, it's just not that good. But if you're in Padre Island or something,
you want that clear.
That clear water usually means
big
hammerhead
sharks
or something. It means So it varies, and for Galveston, you want kind of like an off green color.
So to go to one place and say, I know exactly what I'm going to do here, is kind of loopy. You got to really have to look around and learn your surroundings in the area and what.
Oh yeah, it's different everywhere. So,
the fish's habit, or I guess animals' habits.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was an awesome podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was an awesome. Shark Week. It happened same day you came down. I was like, hey, let's put this together.
Oh, this is perfect, man. I love it. The Shark Week, it's one of my favorite weeks ever.
So tomorrow we're doing an interview after the Galveston Municipal Police Association's special workshop at City Hall, and the interview will be after their presentation. So if you have any questions, if you read this, post on our Facebook page. John Michael, please tell us your Facebook or your Instagram handle so people can follow you.
Oh, okay. Well, I think my Instagram is JM Kamel, Kamel 17. Go check it out. I got some cool pictures on there if you want to see some sharks.
I'm gonna get some video from him so he can put that on the website.
Yeah.
And
love to do that.
We're going to make a nice little video about John Michael and a Galveston Island podcast Shark Week. So we're sorry Ben can't be here today. He had something come up. Anyway, Galveston, stay salty.